Welcome back. So now we're going to add some stuff to the camera. We just added a script, and so now I'm gonna because of that spinning that happened with the when I added the camera as a child to the player. That's just because it's basically rotating in relation to the ball. The ball is rotating when it moved. And actually, I don't know why the ball is rotating because all we did was move it. So I'm not sure why it would actually be spinning. Because the way they're showing it is they're showing the camera going around like this, and the ball being there. The camera shouldn't have moved because the ball should have just changed position. So I'm not really sure. Add force, I guess, rolled it or something instead of just moving it. So I'm not sure how that works, but whatever. And of course, I need to start that, which I always keep forgetting, fortunately. But that's okay. So let's get back into, let's see what we're going to add here.
A public game object reference to the player, and a private vector3 to hold our offset value. Offset is private because we can set that value here in the script. For our offset value, we will take the current transform position of the camera and subtract the transform position of the player to find the difference between the two.
Okay.
So in start, we can make offset equal to our transform position minus the player's transform position. And then every frame, we set our transform position to our player's transform position plus the offset. This means, as we move our player with the controls on the keyboard, that each frame, before displaying what the camera can see, the camera is moved into a new position aligned with the player object, just as if it were a child of that object if it were not rolling around the game board. However, update is not the best place for this code. It is true that update runs every frame, and in update, each frame we can track the position of the player's game object and set the position of the camera.
It's the render.
However, for follow cameras, procedural animation, and gathering last known states, it's best to use late update. Late update runs every frame, just like update. But it is guaranteed to run after all items have been processed in update. So, when we set the position of the camera, we know absolutely that the player has moved for that frame. So let's test this.
Okay, now I'm going to have to remember this, which is not hard, but I just have to remember public game object player, private vector3 offset. In the start one, offset equals transform.position minus player transform.position. Late update, transform.position equals player.transform.position plus offset. Okay, so let's do something here. Now, before I do anything, actually let me go to this. Oh, wait, let me go to no. Where's it at? Where be the unity? Okay. There be the unity. Okay, so I actually capitalized my player, so I'm going to have to make sure that, or at least I think I have to make sure that the script has got it be that. Okay, so public game object. Wait a second. Let's go back to this. Okay, so I guess I'm not sure if this is I see. Let's just do it like it says it, because I want to see if it's not relying. This is part of its code. This isn't part of private to float offset that. No, private. Oh, vector3, of course. What am I thinking? Vector 3 offset, and then right offset equals transform dot position minus player dot transform dot position. That okay, and then we want to go to late update. Interesting. Okay. Transform dot position equals player dot transform dot position plus offset. And let's see how that sucker works. Well, let's go into Unity and okay, so let's go ahead and make sure I save this, and let's go ahead and try to play this sucker. It's not okay. Variable player has not been assigned. Oh, right, because okay, so let's turn this off.
Save our script and return to Unity. First, we need to create a reference to the player game object by dragging the player game object into the player slot in the camera controller's component.
Right.
Enter play mode. And now we get the behavior we want.
Okay, so let's see if I can do that. Okay, let's go into right, and there's nothing here, so let's take player and stick player into player and Control S, and let's play the sucker and see what happens. Yep, everything goes. Kind of sluggish though still. And what happens if we fall off? Oh, and we're gone. And let's do this again. Let's hit play. Oh, weird. Okay, so I'm going to do a screen cap real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and right, I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to save but hide. Alrighty, that's very cool.
The camera follows the rolling ball without rotating,
Yep.
even as the ball goes over the edge.
Whee.
In the next assignment, we'll set up the basic play area and create and place our special pickup objects.
Alright. Pretty good. Alright, let's see what. Okay, so I guess I can mark this as completed. And setting up the play area. Alright. So, we actually did a couple of things in here. I'm gonna go ahead and go ahead and say we added a follow camera to player. Okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and start this up. Or should I? Setting up the play area. Let's see how long this is before I do anything. Oh, okay.
So let's set up our play field. The play field for our game will be very simple. We will place walls around the edges to keep our player game object from falling off, and we will create and place a set of collectible objects for our player to pick up. First, let's create a new game object and rename it walls. This will be an organizing parent game object for our wall objects. Let's look at the organization of our hierarchy. Organization in our projects and our hierarchy are very important. We need to understand that organization at a glance. We organize our projects using folders or directories created by our operating system. Place a set of collectible from falling off, and we will create and place a set of collectible objects for our player to pick up. First, let's create a new game object. Change the size of walls. Frame selected. We add these to our project using the project view's create menu. We organize our hierarchies by using game objects. In our scene, game objects can hold other game objects. Don't be afraid to use an empty game object as a directory or folder in the hierarchy. Reset this game object to origin, and this step is important. We want the transforms of all of our container game objects to be at origin before we use them. Now we will build our walls. Let's start by creating a new cube to be our first wall. Rename this West Wall.
Okay, so let's do that. Create a cube. Let's rename it West Wall like it says. Okay.
Reset this game object to origin. Now parent.
It doesn't need to be reset to origin, but oh, I see. Wait a second. Oh yeah.
West Wall to our walls game object. Let's focus our scene view camera to our
Okay, so under there. Okay, got it.
wall object. We can do this by typing the F key while the cursor is over the scene view, or by selecting Edit, Frame Selected. We need to change the size of the cube to fit one side of our play area. Change the cube's transform scale of X, Y, and Z to 0.5 for thin, 2 for tall, and 20.5 for long.
Okay, so scale 0.5 to 20.5. And then we'll probably...
Now we can simply push the wall into place using the Translate tool, or we could enter a value into the transform component. In this case, we can set the transform's position X value to -10.
Okay, so X is -10. Okay. Gotcha.
This places the wall neatly to the edge of our play area. To create the next wall, we could start with another new cube, but then we'd have to rescale this new cube before we placed it. Our current west wall is already the perfect size. So, let's duplicate the west wall game object. Let's rename it east wall.
So let's duplicate, and I think I can do a Control D, because it says Command D in that, and he's using, so rename that east wall. That.
To place the wall, simply remove the negative sign, and it pops into place on the east side of our game.
Okay, so remove the negative, and there you go.
Area. Now let's duplicate the east wall and call it north wall.
North.
Reset the X position so the north wall is in the center of the play area.
Okay, so let's duplicate, and let's call this north, and let's reset this to 0. I think he's just going to rotate it by like 90 degrees, I think. 90. Nope. 0. Wait. Around the Z. 90. Nope. Okay, what about the X? 90. Nope. Alright, let's see what he does.
We now have two choices. We can rotate the wall by 90 degrees, or, as this is a cuboid, we can rescale the wall to 20.5 in the X and 0.5 in the Z. Now
Okay, so scaling is probably better. So we just essentially flop these values. So 20.5, 0.5, and then we move it by Z to -10. That probably. We'll see here.
it's scaled correctly for its orientation as the north wall. We can drag the wall into place, or we can simply use the value of 10 in the transform's position Z field to place it. Duplicate north wall and call it south wall, and -10 in the Z axis pops it into place. Enter play mode and test.
Okay, so let's do something here. Let's put this as 10. That. And then duplicate. Control D. Let's call it south wall. And let's go ahead and put a -10 there. -10. Alright, and Control S here.
Fantastic. The walls work fine. Remember to test early and test often. Don't wait to test. Let's exit play mode. Let's highlight the player game object and set the editor to local mode and try again. Note how in local mode we can see the transform rotate.
Huh, okay, so play first. And okay, that works. What does this local mode mean? Let's back this up a little bit.
Let's highlight the player game object and set the editor to local mode and try again.
Highlight the player object. Set the editor to local mode? What does that mean? I didn't see exactly what he did. Here, let's back this up just a tad.
And set the editor to local mode. Let's highlight the player game object and set the editor to local mode and try again.
Okay. There. I know I didn't see it, but okay. What's cool about this is it doesn't seem to be rotating these deals, it's just moving it, which is what I want.
Note how in local mode we can see the transform rotate. Let's exit play mode.
Huh.
In the next episode, we will be creating our collectible pickup objects.
Mine doesn't actually... Okay, let's set it to global mode. Weird. Does that mean that... Huh. I don't know what it's supposed to be set on. Okay, well... Doesn't matter. Maybe I'll check it later. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and cut it here and say thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.